Hello and welcome back to another episode of the ALIZEE YEEZY show. I'm your host, ALIZEE YEEZY, and I'm with my friend, Rob. I don't know why I paused then. That was really passive-aggressive.
You don't have to keep saying friend that way.
My mate, my good friend,
Yeah.
if you would believe that, Rob. So, what should we talk about today?
You have an anecdote.
I do a weird thing.
Let's begin with an
happen to me.
anecdote.
And this kind of stuff always happens to me. I just attract odd people. I don't know what it is. I do know it is. It's because I kind of like egg them on a little bit. I was getting a cab back to mine the other day, and this cabbie, he didn't say anything for most of the trip. But he was just listening to rock music, and then we were going through like East London, and it was Monday, so the clubs were back open, people were out drinking, having a laugh. So then he just starts talking about, you know, the lockdowns and how he perceived it all to be a waste of time. And I was like, oh, okay, because I don't know, you know, when people are just talking and being maybe a bit I don't know how to describe it. I'm not gonna, if I don't know a person, I'm not gonna confront them on like their nonsense. I will egg it on a little bit and be like, oh yeah, because I want to see like the natural extension of the conversation where it progresses. Here's where it progressed. He started talking about politicians and how he hates all of them, and then about paedophiles and pedo rings and how a popular pop star might be a paedophile. And I was like, okay, wow, yeah. And then, so I paid for my fare and I had to sit in this cab for 10 minutes whilst he ranted at me about like pedo rings and the industry and that kind of thing. And then he turns out of nowhere and just goes, do you know about the Illuminati? And I was like, yeah, I'm well acquainted with the Illuminati. All right, this is my bread and butter. And he was like, Holly Willoughby, she's in the Illuminati. She was doing the all-seeing eye thing the other day. And then he started going on about vaccinations and stuff, and I decided to nope out of that car. But that was nice. I don't do anything. These people just find me and start talking.
Of all the people, Holly Willoughby.
Holly Willoughby is in the Illuminati.
She's in the know.
Yeah, she knows what's Holly Willoughby. She knows what's really going on. She's up there with like the whole Lady Gaga Illuminati stuff.
Yeah. Well, I have a connecting thing that happened to me just today, and I waited for this. I saw a guy. He was masked up, so I only saw sort of top of the nose up. But I thought I recognised him from somewhere. Pretty sure, coming up the Northern Line, David Icke. I checked his hands, and he was holding his hands the way David, because he's got
What do you mean? How do you know anything about how David Icke holds his hands?
Because he's got really bad arthritis in both his hands.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So he has,
sorry, David.
Yeah, it came up in one of the YouTube videos I saw years ago, and he's
No,
like
he does.
he
That's
does
why
hold
he
them.
stopped playing football. Sorry,
Yeah.
so I know all the lore about David Icke. That's why he stopped
Yeah.
playing football. That's why he went to and had his like Kundalini experience or something, and then the stones
So I
gave
checked.
him energy.
I looked, and the guy, he was walking with his hands sort of like that, and he looked facially. I'm pretty sure I saw David Icke today.
You should have asked him to be on the podcast.
Well, he passed me, and I was already like, hang on. By the time it registered, because I was like, I recognise him from somewhere. It's hard with the masks.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, I'd have to like run up the escalator, and that's not on. So.
YouTube might ban us if we have David Icke on the podcast. But actually, I'm not
I
sure.
think
Because
not.
No, True Geordie had David Icke on the podcast. And then I'm going to start beef with True Geordie. No, I like True Geordie. He's all right. He can come on our podcast.
I don't know who he is.
But, he's great. He's a Geordie, and he, he's really
typecasting
muscly.
him, mate.
He's
Okay.
really muscly. He has this co-host who I'm starting beef. Yeah, I'm not that keen on. But then, like, the episode afterwards, after they had David Icke on,
some people aren't keen on co-hosts.
the episode afterwards, the co-host, I forget his name, he was being like, yeah, we didn't bring up the lizard people stuff. And it's just like, oh, you wet wipe. You wet wipe. Don't mention
The one thing you would do.
don't mention the lizard people stuff the episode after you've had David Icke on. Like, either bring it up to him or don't. Don't then like mention it afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, either do or don't. Like, say it with your chest or don't at all. I just remembered actually. No, like, strange people are just attracted to me. I don't mean in a physical sense like they find me attractive.
Some of them might.
Probably do. I mean in the sense of like maybe they just sense a vibe and they come and talk to me. Where I used to work, this guy came in who I affectionately called Crazy DJ. I shouldn't use his name, should I? Crazy DJ Dave, right?
Okay.
Oh, he's not going to
What
listen
a
to this.
creative name.
No, he might listen to this. He thought he was not like deeply religious, but he was like quite old school biblical. I think he was in like his mid-30s, but he thought demons were in everything.
Right.
So he would come in and talk
In
to
his
me,
cereal.
and he would write down like little like YouTube conspiracy theory videos, like about how in Monsters Inc. they're talking about adrenochrome, you know, the
That's not the thing
adrenochrome, the one that the elites like
that harvest from
eating.
children.
Yes. Oh god, we're gonna get demonetized already.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
But they also definitely don't because
Well, apparently Monsters Inc. is an allegory for the billionaires doing that because it's all about harvesting the screams from children to use as energy. And yeah,
So what's Freddy Krueger then?
I don't know, it was in the 80s. So like,
I mean, I know he's a pedo. That was his, I think.
Yeah.
But
Saying that was secretively. He's a Freddy Krueger's a pedo. He don't exist. Yeah, he was a right nonce. Yeah, so he would come in and just, you know, tell me things. So I'd be like, oh, do you like this conspiracy theorist? Name a conspiracy theorist. Just to like get a gauge on where this guy's head was at. And then he'd be like, no, because that person has demons. Okay. And then one day, like, he kind of, I don't know, he was bothering me a bit because he would, you know, go on for like 45 minutes and I'd get kind of told off for engaging with people like this whilst I was meant to be working. So I said to him, you know, I don't believe in like, I believe Jesus did exist at one point, but I don't believe that he was, you know, this sort of son of God parable, whatever. I don't believe in like literal biblical demons either. And then he never came back in after that because I think he thought that I must have demons.
Oh.
Which is sad. I saw him on the street once and like we had a little chat, but that was the extent.
It's a shame. They're so passionate until they
think that you're made of demons.
like that bit in Dracula where
Which Dracula?
the good one.
I haven't seen it.
Keanu Reeves. The Keanu Reeves one.
I haven't seen it. I've watched
Seminal
some
movie.
bits of it.
Well, anyway, there's a person who's made of Dracula turns himself into a tower of rats that all just like disperse. That's how I imagine.
How big was the tower?
Well, it was his height. He like goes into the
That's
shadows.
not a tower then, is it? If it's only like, that's not even 2 meters, is it? Who was it? Gary Oldman?
Yeah.
How tall is he? That's not a tower. That's just like a
Okay.
a
It is for rats.
human-sized.
It is for rats.
I had rats. It's not a tower at all.
How many rats could you stack at once? I reckon less than.
I don't know. I hadn't tried with mine.
Good.
Mine were basically feral anyway. I loved those little buggers.
My point is, that's how he probably perceived you. Just
No, rats
demons,
do see you.
and then they flee.
Rats do. Are we talking about how rats perceive? Because rats see humans basically as like really big rats. Like if you're their sort of, you know, if you have rats, not like just you have rats like in your walls, but if you have rats as pets. I don't like the word pets. I don't like those connotations. I like to think of them as just like animal
Roommates.
friends. Yeah. If you have rats as animal roommates or friends that are not feral and like eating parts of your wall.
Yeah, when I had a cat, I wasn't like his owner. He just lived there, and you know, did nothing to help with the rent. He contributed nothing, but you know, love.
Of course.
And scratches. I did start watching The Walking Dead. I'm only 4 episodes in, so I don't have the kind of time to watch it that you do. I'm not up to like season 9.
This is a segment of the show we're calling Things That I Gone, Done, Read or Watched or read or... What? I can't even English. It's very
Thought my
early for
intro
me.
was
What
bad.
time is it? It's 12:30. Rip for me. Yes, The Walking Dead. I think I'm at the end of season 9 now, and they've deviated away from the... You've not read the comic, so it doesn't really matter, but they deviated away from the comic quite a bit in a way that I just don't think actually added anything good to the show. It was kind of pointless and redundant, like killing off a main character who survives in the comic to the end. So it affects the other main character. But I don't think it was because of that. I think the reasons were slightly more to do with like financial, or the child actor wasn't like that good, so how would he read on from the... No, I don't know, but I don't think... Yeah. I don't think it was done for the sake of the storyline. I think it was more done... I think the child actor was turning 18 like the year later, and when
You have to pay them more.
Yes, you can renegotiate the contract. So I think they... Well, I read someone say that on Reddit, so that's not coming from an actual source. What do you think of The Walking Dead so far?
I've enjoyed it so far, but again, they haven't quite got to the stage where, as I understand it, The Walking Dead has a pattern to it, which is find a group of survivors, get into interpersonal conflict with them, the dead ruin the safe zone, and then they run to the next one, and that just kind of keeps happening. I saw that in a comment section. I don't know how true that is, But that hasn't really started to happen yet. And sadly, one of my favourite characters is like the worst person in it.
Who?
What, Merle?
Oh, I didn't like him. I like
No,
Daryl.
no, of course, like, you're not meant to really like Merle. He's a horrible man, but it's Michael Rooker. Like, the actor, he's great in everything. So I'm just aware of how much I like him.
Well, I love Daryl, his younger brother, because Daryl, he's just like this big, gruff, always dirty, like man, like always literally covered in dirt.
Yeah, crossbow boy.
But he's got like, he's a massive softie with a heart made of gold, really. And he's really nice with like, he's really nice to the children. That's important. He's really cool. Carol, they changed her completely from the comic, because in the comic, Carol...
Have I met Carol yet?
She's got the short grey hair.
Does she have an abusive husband at the start?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the comic, spoiler alert, she just lets herself get eaten because, I don't know, she just gets fed up. Doesn't happen in the show. She becomes a really good character. There's a character later on called Michonne, who is played by the same actress in Black Panther. I can't remember. What was her name? Kes Motion? In Black Panther. You've seen that. I really like that film. It's good. How are you taking so long to Google something? Come on, young Jamie. What's this about?
Yeah, if you want...
Tell me to fuck off.
you gotta earn it.
She played Okoye in Black Panther.
Is Okoye his love interest?
Yeah, but she's badass. And then there's this there's a character called Ezekiel much later on, and I love him.
He's not the guy with like the baseball bat or whatever.
No, that's
Who's that
Negan.
guy?
And Negan.
Oh, Negan. Okay, I'm
like
aware of
shaking his
Negan
head.
memes.
Kes Motion is shaking his head by the camera because I love Negan. In the comics, he's my favorite. I knew about the whole him killing one of the main characters because when it happened at the time, and I didn't watch the show at the time, but social media was just awash with theories about how like the main, like this character could still be alive, and people were just like so mad and upset. So reading the comic, knowing that that was coming up, I was expecting to hate this person because it's a really brutal death. He does. But Negan in the comic is just like this big, brash, like boyish adult. Like he swears. There's this I would just like screenshot. No, but like the swears he does is very child. I'm a big child, basically. Like he'll be like, for fuckedy, fucking fucked piece of fucking shit. Like that's a sentence that he would say in the comic, and he's just so funny, and he's really good with the kids and stuff. And in the show,
why are all these characters so good with the kids?
Oh, because it's just because there's barely any kids at the end of the world, you know.
Nice.
So it's important if like they are nice to the kids because they carry on humanity. But in the show, they definitely made the saviors way more savage. In the comic, it's not amazing what they're doing, but you can still kind of justify a lot of Negan's actions in the comic with like his character arc and what he's done to survive up until that point. In the show, you can't because they're way more savage and brutal. But I what's his name? Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who plays Negan. At first, I wasn't, you know, because the idea of the character in my head from the comic was a little, because they can't say like fuck on, which is literally like,
AMC, whatever it was.
Three-quarters of Negan's dialogue is him just saying fuck. But he's just so funny as well. And he has like principles and morals. Like someone, how much can I ruin for you?
All of it. Like there's 11 seasons. I don't think I'm going to get around to all of it.
So someone from Rick's group goes up to Negan behind like Rick's back and is like, I think you should kill Rick because since he's got here, he's made everything worse. And Negan's like, you know, Rick hates me, but he's working for me and that takes a lot of guts. You've gone behind his back to try to off him because you want me to do your dirty work. Where are your guts? You have none. And he cuts open his stomach and all the guts like intestines fall out. And he's like, oh, silly me, there they are. How wrong was I? I've never been so wrong in my life. And the panel in the comic is him like that. It's just, and they do that in the show as well. And I was like, oh, I love this. So like,
was there any classical music playing? Because how aroused were you? That on a scale of...
There's no classical music in that
Oh,
part.
good. Okay. So...
But Negan in Negan is like my favorite character, and then like Ezekiel, Michonne, like all these characters that you've got to watch it. 'Cause
I'll do it in pieces.
It's
Have you
good,
read
even though
anything
they
recently?
deviate.
Have you read anything recently? This is the reading corner and
Not
media
just me
corner.
being like, oh my god, Negan, he's just so like he's my favorite.
But you read The Walking Dead, but
Well, I
was that
did.
recently?
Yeah, it was like a couple of weeks ago. I've been listening to Anna Karenina, because I tried to read it, but Leo Tolstoy, is Tolstoy, he does that thing where the text is just like blocks. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not reading paragraphs like this big because like that's annoying for my eyes because they, you know what I mean? I can't focus properly on it. But the thing is, it's taken quite a while to get through Anna Karenina because the audiobook is 40 hours long. But I do enjoy it because I love, is it 19th century Russian literature? Is it 19th century? I don't know. I enjoy that type of Russian literature because it's kind of like over the top. It's a bit like a soap opera. It's the same with The Idiot by Dostoevsky. I love that too. But in Anna Karenina, there's this bit where this man is talking about how, this other man, I don't know who it was, is having a tantrum. I've never seen him like that. He shook his stick at his doctor. And it's just so melodramatic. What have you been doing?
I'm just coming to the end of the Odyssey, and I've got it here because I wanted to get the quote right. It's on page 228, I'm sure. Because this made me like Odysseus more. Because at the moment, the characterization in this it's very poetic, so no one's like that individual. Everyone's described as god like this or god like that.
Dawn has like
rosy fingers.
Rosy fingers. Yeah, I listened to the audiobook of the Odyssey as well, and just Dawn crept across the sky with rosy fingers, like
rosy fingered Dawn thumbed open the new day's crack. Yeah,
the new day's crack. That sounds so wrong.
That's Garth Marenghi.
Oh,
yeah. There's a reason I didn't come up with that. I'm not that funny. I never will be. Odysseus debated whether to leap at the fellow and kill him with his staff, or to lift him by his middle and smash his head on the ground. To listeners, that's a suplex being described. I love the idea of a Greek hero just getting someone by the middle and bam, Kurt Angle.
There's a great book. There's a great bit in, because again, I listened to the audiobook of the Odyssey just because, I don't know, convenient, isn't it? There's a great bit where Odysseus calls someone a bitch and he's like, you bitch.
That's the servant woman. I read that chapter today, waiting for you on your doorstep.
Yeah, and then he kills all the servants. It's great. I really liked the Odyssey.
Fair enough. I mean, that's not all I took from it. Just liking the...
No, wait, he doesn't kill the servants. What am I on about? He killed like some of the maids who had...
Maybe the crafty maids.
The ones that had been shagging the
suitors. Yeah.
The suitors who were just staying at his house for years, eating all of his food. Like, what?
Like I said
Bang
before,
out of order.
Like I said before, you kind of admire it after a while because no one was stopping him. They knew what they wanted and they took it.
How do you pronounce his son's name?
Telemachus. Sort of. I don't know. Could be
20,
wrong.
Wasn't doing anything. What about the dog? The dog that was like
Argus.
30 years old.
Argus. No, he was 20.
Well, no, if Odysseus was gone for 20 years...
Well, he raised him like a puppy, maybe a year old, if that, when he was born. So, and then Odysseus is gone for 20 years. That dog must have been so rickety. He died on a dung heap.
But if Odysseus only had him for like a year, why would you have that much loyalty for someone that you've known for a year to then wait around for them for 20 years? Sorry, what a fucking simp. I would never. And I love animals, but come on, dog, get it together. No, that's ridiculous. That's simpish behaviour. Why would you do that? Would you do that? You've known someone for a year and then you just like sit around and wait for them for 20 years whilst they're doing God knows what, shagging that goddess or no, the spirit, the nymph on the island.
Yeah, Calypso.
I wasn't happy about that. I was like, you've got a
for
wife
7
at
years.
home. What are you doing?
For 7 years. And then Athena shows up and tells him, oh, build a ship. He didn't think of that on his own. Genius Odysseus. I'm starting to think he wasn't that eager to get home. Oh, well, time to be on our way now.
Look, you're structuring the show, so yes,
Okay.
you have to do the lead into
mean,
the topics. Because I've left the structuring of this to you because I'm a very busy person.
Yeah, well, going on from The Walking Dead then, what's your favourite style of horror? In TVs and movies. And books maybe as well. Because you've read The Shining, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I've read like the majority of Stephen King's work, short stories and everything.
Because I'm well into supernatural horror. I know some people like the sort of almost like criminal psychology style, like thriller stuff. Less interested. I like ghosts and demons, but only when it's done well.
Oh yeah, I don't do much.
Or when it's done really, really badly.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of criminal stuff. I think I do the supernatural, like alien horror. I don't know what used to scare me as a child. The Sixth Sense used to scare me quite a bit.
I still haven't seen that.
Oh well.
Should have watched that in preparation. But didn't you say the burned lady?
No, the one that towards the end. The one that got me was this girl who had been murdered by her stepmother. I believe it was the stepmother and not the mother, was giving her poison. So
That's like a German fairy tale death.
What's his name in The Shining? Hey, when Haley Joel Osment sees this
You mean
girl,
The Sixth Sense?
What am I talking about? The Sixth Sense. When Haley Joel Osment sees this girl, she's just like vomiting a lot, and like she's like kind of chasing after him and vomiting. And then you see The Sixth Sense, surely Kes Motion. Come on, you're gonna be an all-star filmographer, videographer, director. And even seen The Sixth Sense. Signs that used
Sitting over there like George Lucas, not getting up.
Signs that used to ship me up as well. The bit where
Coming out of the bush.
Yes.
Yeah,
I hit my head on my shelf because I jumped.
It's burned into my memory.
I was like 11, so it's fine.
I thought that bit was really good. There's another one which I saw a few years ago, and like the rest of the film isn't great, but it's called Dark Skies, and that also has an alien that visits a kid in his room, and it's just there's like one unnerving bit, and that got me. But the rest of the movie is a bit of a disappointment.
I've got this thing, and I mean a thing as in like a paranoid fear. This is so stupid to admit. I know it's stupid, but it is irrational. I have this thing where I don't like looking outside of windows at nighttime. And I grew up in like the countryside, which doesn't mean I was surrounded by fields, but you know, we actually had gardens and starry nights and there were fields. But I had this thing where I just get like, I'm so sure that my mum's house, she doesn't live there anymore, but I'm so sure it was haunted because at nighttime when I was by myself, like downstairs in the living room, it just had negative vibes. Like it just had, you had this constant feeling of like something might be watching you. There might be something else, not like ghosts or anything, but just there was a negative vibe like to it. So I'd get scared going into the kitchen because I'd worry about looking outside the window and seeing aliens in the garden. And look, I'd love to meet an alien, but it's just like this fear. I don't know where it came from.
Context is important.
I don't know where it comes from. Yeah, so I have like a bit of a irrational fear about, because I think I read too many stories as a kid of like the Kentucky Hopkinsville goblins, where like this farmhouse was sort of laid under siege one night by these metallic sort of like they were wearing like metallic suits because they shot at these aliens, these little like goblin type. There's Pokemon based on these Hopkinsville goblins. The local sheriff like even came to the house. When they were shooting at the aliens, like they were ricocheting, and the aliens, they were like climbing all over the house and like peering through the windows. So I think like I read too much about that.
This was just the plot to Gremlins.
No. This is an actual thing. I think it happens in the 60s, whatever. And deniers of it say that there was like this circus that was nearby, like a traveling circus, and they reckon just some monkeys had escaped from the circus and was like climbing over this house. It's like, oh yeah, and were they bulletproof? Get out. So I think that's where it comes from, not wanting to look outside the windows at night just in case there's there's an alien with like a massive noggin just like staring at you. That would shit anyone up. That's horrible.
I mean, in fairness, people want to meet other people, you know, for partners, romantic relationships. You don't want to meet the ones who follow you home at night. There's a difference. An alien you meet out in the street, totally different.
Yeah, I'd invite an alien onto this podcast. In fact, I'd like to think that if an alien is going to come onto the podcast, I deserve it the most out of everyone in the world. Do you know what really annoys me? Do you know what really grinds my gears about this? I totally, Men in Black, the film, Will Smith, sick. I do think that there is something like that going on where they're just, in the secret industrial military complex, there are some military officials that are chatting with aliens right now and just discussing things, not world domination, but just, I don't know, shooting the shit, having a cigarette, talking, a bit like Paul Seth Rogen, yeah. And that annoys me to no end because sure, they've spent like 40 plus years of their career working in the secret industrial military complex, but I deserve it more. I deserve to talk to an alien more and share a cigarette.
Granted, and I like Paul as well. It was one of the few Seth Rogen films I enjoy.
Yeah,
he was good in that.
It was good.
He was matched up well for that.
Yeah.
So after last week's podcast, I was talking to Rachel about things that scared us as kids, like TV shows and films and things. Not even stuff that you weren't quite ready to watch as a kid, but like children's content that was scary. And we were trying to decide, is it good for kids? Or, I mean, I guess it varies. But I really enjoyed being frightened as a child. But like silly things, like in the Moomins, which was hugely formative because they're Finnish and I'm half Finnish. So I saw it in the original language. And there's like a few monsters and things in that really got to me. Especially because when you go out at night in Finland when it's been snowing, it looks exactly like the show. So I was just waiting to hear the monsters' voices and things in the woods. And like other little cartoons and stuff that they used to make. And I think it's potentially less prevalent now that you just like scare kids. I think it's all right.
I'm getting like a flashback to a memory of, I loved Pingu. I might still have a Pingu the Penguin toy.
Is it the giant seal face?
No. There's this episode where he gets, he's like skating around on this little barrel thing with his seal friend. And then somehow he gets trapped under the ice in this underground cavern and he's walking through. And at the end, obviously, he gets out because it's a kid's show. But that used to shit me the fuck up. Because I just like, overactive imagination. What if he'd never got out of the ice and then he just died underneath the ice all alone, scared?
Yeah. Well, we were talking, Rachel and I, about Noddy. You know Noddy in like the little red and yellow car.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Vaguely.
There's an episode, and it's also like an audio book or like the cassette that you can like read along with, where he gets mugged.
What?
And carjacked in the woods by goblins.
No way.
That was so traumatic. I had that like read to me as a kid, and then I listened to the tape. Usually when I was like ill already, I think once I was like, I had a fever. And so I kind of like dreamt about it afterwards and it became real. So I was just kind of like there getting carjacked with Noddy. Fucking bizarre.
Yeah,
I can't remember how it ended. I don't know. I assume he got away. That wasn't the end of... That's not how they wrapped Noddy. It wasn't The Sopranos.
Yeah, I think I did enjoy being scared as a kid. I certainly
within reason,
sought out things like that. Like I really liked The Mummy. I watched that quite young. The Brendan Fraser, the first
movie.
Yeah, but again, the bit where is his name Benji or is it Benny?
Benny.
Yeah, Benny. When he gets trapped in the cavern, like that used to kind of get me. You know, right at the end, he gets the door goes down, and like Brendan Fraser tries to save him, and then he gets eaten alive by the scarab beetles. I was massively into ancient Egypt.
I hated those scarab beetles, just in general. I mean, I'm sure they aren't flesh eating,
well, they'd go under
they go under the skin. Anything that goes under your skin.
Omad Djalali.
Omid Jalali.
Sorry, I butcher every other word, like in the English language, so it's fine.
That's not...
Yeah, my pronunciations in Japanese are all right, so, I think I just have a weird thing going on in my brain about the English language. But Omid, Omid, sorry, did it again. When they go under his skin, they go, and then he runs like headfirst into a wall and dies. Bruh.
What a way to go.
Moment.
Jesus.
What other things used to scare you? What other like bits of media as a kid?
I'm going to take it back to the Moomins for a second, just because they did a TV movie where a comet.
They clearly did.
They messed me up. No, there's a TV movie, Comet in Moomin Land, and it's apocalyptic. Like the sea retreats, the sky is on fire, people are fleeing for their lives, and there's a bit where there's like a cat in peril, and I can't deal with that even now. I still like worry. I've seen it a couple of years ago, and I'm still like, oh my god, I hope he saves that cat. Of course he does.
Is this a kids show?
Yeah.
Why was it apocalyptic?
You genuinely feel like the world might be ending. Like,
why? Whose idea was that? Who did coke and thought that'd be a good idea for a kids show?
It was written by a Swedish Finn called Tove Jansson, and it was animated in Japan, and it's amazing, like hand-drawn animation, and the score is haunting. There's like eerie flute music going on. So nope. And yeah, they all flee to like these seaside cliffs, and they just wait out to die in a children's show. And then everything's fine. The comet just passes by because they thought it had like an Earth trajectory, and it just goes by. Fine. The sea rushes in, and it ends with them all playing in the sea. But my God, it's a rough ride.
I read an article the other day, like apparently quite a big asteroid is going to pass close to Earth, and the title of this fucking article was like, China want to fire missiles at the asteroid to blow it up. But then I read the article, and actually seems highly unlikely that we're all going to get obliterated by this asteroid. So it's just the media being
How-
over sensationalist.
How
But
big is this asteroid? What's that going to do to all the astrologers out there?
yeah,
What's this doing to my rising sign? Do I have an excuse to be a complete prick for about a month?
oh,
There's an asteroid all up in your business. Don't worry about it.
two things. Number one, just want to interject with the kids show thing. A kids show that is surprisingly good for adults to watch. Lazytown. I went through this phase a few years ago, like in my early 20s, where I just decided I was just going to watch Lazytown. I think Stefan Carlson, I think it was when he'd been diagnosed with cancer, terminal cancer.
Which one was he? Was
Robbie Rotten.
Robbie Rotten,
And he was
yeah.
amazing. He was like born to do that role. He was such a good actor, and you know, I'm gonna get emotional actually because I really liked him. It was really sad.
I think it takes a lot to do like acting kid shows because it's a totally different style of performance. Like,
he was almost like an Icelandic Jim Carrey, or is Jim Carrey a Canadian American Stefan Carlson?
I'm amazed you know his name as well.
I'm
Because
gonna
normally,
go and Google it really quickly because I'm sure I've got that wrong.
why is he like Jim Carrey? Does he just move his face a lot? Or is it like impressions and things? Or because Jim Carrey's known for his like facial.
Stefan Carl Stephenson. So I was almost right. Sorry about that. Everyone, sorry for getting that wrong. But Stefan,
Sorry, I'm a Jalali.
sorry, I'm just an idiot. Why was he like Jim Carrey? Yes, the facial expressions. I think he also did play the Grinch, like a stage performance version. He was really. You could see.
I can see
Stefan
that.
Carl
'Cause
as like
I haven't
the
watched the
Grinch.
show, but I've seen like clips of him.
So I was watching it like as an adult. Obviously, I'd watched it as a teenager. Even that is too old to be watching later. It's for your 8-year-olds. But I was watching it like as an adult, and it was really fucking funny. Like, there's so many memes of it because it's genuinely like a really funny show.
Is it because I've never seen an episode of SpongeBob, but people tell me that's great for adults. There's like lots of little things in there that, as a kid, pass you right by, like depression memes and all sorts. I've never seen it, but is it worth me?
Probably. I watched the SpongeBob SquarePants film in the cinema. I
How
was
old?
like, I don't know. Not a teenager. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that. Had David Hasselhoff in it. He like shoots them out of his pecs at one point because he saves them.
Is he like live action
Yeah.
David Hasselhoff?
Yeah, because they get brought up to land and they turn literally into like a
A
sponge,
sponge and a starfish. I've seen this, yeah. I thought I'd dreamt that.
I know, it's like a fever dream.
Anything with David Hasselhoff, I'm like, I'm sure that didn't happen.
I was always more of a Fairly Odd Parents type of gal, though. I really liked Fairly Odd Parents. That was ahead of its time. That was good. Like that was, oh my god, that was so funny actually. Timmy Turner's dad. Did you ever watch Fairly Odd Parents? Timmy Turner's dad was
No.
a laugh riot, and he had this whole thing about his neighbor Dinkleberg. I like try and base my personalities off of like larger than life fucking idiots, like cartoon characters. Like I used to kind of think I was Bart Simpson. I was like 8. I went through this, not actually thinking. I didn't look at myself and be like, wow, I'm 2D. But I just,
Basically the same.
I emulated a lot of his behaviours. Oh god, I don't know if I should. So, one time I
Did
might
you ever
have,
cut the head off a monument?
if there had been a monument in my hometown, my god, I would have tried.
Because I've heard people aren't fond of messing with monuments these
Oh
days.
yeah, moving swiftly on. No, but once my mum got called by the head teacher because we were about 8, but me and my childhood bestie, we decided to emulate an episode of The Simpsons we'd seen where Bart sells his soul, and I like me and my little childhood bestie. I mean, I did. So I bought his soul basically for a £5. I gave him a £5 at school. I mean, we're not meant to we're 8 years old. We're not meant to have cash on the playground or anything. And I
At
think
8 years old, £5?
yeah, I'd saved up for that bit of soul.
Holy shit. You weren't messing around.
I really wanted his soul. Loved that guy. We remained friends for a long time. What?
Well, you had to because
Oh, I had his soul.
Yeah.
No, but then so the teachers found out somehow, and we got called to the head teacher's office. So I immediately just started fake crying to get out of trouble.
did you fake faint?
I didn't fake faint. Great video though on Critical's channel. It's like some Karen, I don't know, it's a recent video put up. Well funny, this woman fake faints. You gotta watch it. I was in stitches. My insides were hurting from laughing so much. That doesn't happen. with YouTubers. That much. What's the about? Yeah, so anyway, then we get like got called to the head teacher's office, and they framed it as, well, you shouldn't be having money at school, and that's what you're in for, but we can see it's just kids being kids, you're being silly. My mum told me years later, she got a call from the head teacher being like, so your daughter is buying souls on the playground? They thought I was like some sort of future cult leader.
Maybe you are demonic.
Maybe I am full of demons.
You're like Legion.
I don't know what that is.
ALIZEE is many.
I don't know what that is. What's a Legion? I know about the Legion in Fallout New Vegas. So I'm Kaiser.
Legion is from the Bible. Jesus exorcises a guy. I think it's like one of the few actual exorcisms in the Bible. I don't think there are many. I think it might just be the one. And he meets a guy who says, we are Legion, because we're many. And it's like 80 or more, possibly hundreds of demons, all in this one guy. So Jesus exorcises him, and they all go into like this flock of pigs, and then the pigs run over a cliff. That's you. That's
like that Star Trek episode where they get assimilated.
The Borg.
Yes, and there's also there's this kids' books. Why are you laughing? What? I'm not the Borg.
The Borg Queen.
I don't even watch Star Trek. There's one episode.
Fan
my
art,
dad
fan
watches
art
Star
of
Trek.
ALIZEE. Fan art of ALIZEE as the Borg Queen. I'll like it. She won't.
There's one episode of Star Trek that I actually sat and watched recently, and that's called The Inner Light, where he has this whole, he touches this like old artifact, and he has this whole life on this planet, but only 20 minutes have really passed in real time, and that would fuck you up. Like, he has a family, he thinks that him being on the Enterprise was just some sort of fever dream he had, and the planet was dying, and the race had died thousands of years ago, so he left like this monument so that their memory could be kept alive somehow. Like, but he has a whole family, grandkids, and then he dies, and then just comes back, and it's only been 20. That'd fuck you up. Imagine. That's a horrible episode. Anyway,
Star Trek's actually pretty good for horror. In a lot of aspects.
That's like complete psychological horror. That's horrible. I can think of. Imagine I have this whole life, and I just wake up somewhere else, and I don't know, like I just knocked my head, and just been knocked out for like 20 minutes on a different planet.
There's an episode with Patrick Stewart in, and it's super dark because he goes back to Earth for like a stress relief holiday to deal with his trauma. He goes back and like hangs out with his brother at this vineyard that they own. But it's after Patrick Stewart has been assimilated by the Borg and was controlled, and then enacted a genocide on some people. I think he was responsible, like he pressed a button and killed thousands and thousands of people, and then he was released, and then he has to deal with this, and he just has this breakdown with his brother. It's more than I expected from Star Trek, because I didn't really watch it as a kid. I didn't really like sci-fi as a child, unless it was Star Wars, because that wasn't sci-fi. It was fantasy in space. So, yeah. There's more to that show. Although I love all the bad sets. It's probably one of my favourite things about Star Trek, when it's a bit hammy.
When, who's that guy? William Shatner.
Yeah.
Who acts like this. When he, like, that's how he acts. Don't
He's
laugh
better
at me.
than that.
When he fights that literal reptilian on that planet. Like, gets into a fist fight.
Fights the Gorn.
Yeah. There was this kids' book series called The Animorphs. And that was sort of about these brain slugs I think they're called slugs, and they're going through your ear, and then like you're conscious, but they've taken complete control of like your body, and they were trying to, have domination all of these planets. And then at the end, like a new foe, like a new challenger appears. Spoiler alert for anyone on that. And that's sort of like a Borg type assimilating different people thing.
Wait, that was in Animorphs?
Yep.
Isn't that where they just turn into animals?
Yeah. With those cool covers that like you see at the library. But I never read any of those as a kid. Because...
Were they like holographic?
Yeah.
The covers, so like half as animal. Wait, did the brain slug cause the animal mutation, or?
Oh, no, so let's get into the lore of it. I never read any of those as a child because they never had like, the book one, and because there's like 50 of these books.
Oh yeah, because they're children's books, and they're relatively thin.
Yeah, you can get through them in like, you can get through one in like an hour or two.
Yeah.
Probably about 2 hours, being a bit generous there, pretending I'm smarter than I am. About 2 hours for like one book.
Dostoevsky, Animorphs.
So look, I'm a varied content creator. But I was just bored at work, so I decided to start reading the Animorphs. And I think I got up to like book 15 or whatever. And
me, That's
Well,
a slow day.
not all in one day.
Oh,
but
okay.
Just like over, the course of a few weeks. And then I sort of lost a bit of steam of it. But no, so the slugs are like this alien race that are taking over, like having host bodies and taking over. I can't remember any of the technical, dare I say, terms of these, but those kids can turn into animals because like this alien from like this different race who he doesn't have a mouth, but he has like 4 eyes and sort of like the body of like a blue deer. And he's like this prince and he crash lands onto Earth and the kids see it. And then he shares like the technology with them so they can rewrite their DNA and turn into animals. But they can only, so they have to like touch the animal to get the DNA. So they have to like go to tigers at one point, like touch the tigers to absorb the DNA. And they can only be in animal form for 2 hours. Any longer than that, and they get stuck in the animal form forever. And one of the kids gets stuck as like a hawk. Yeah.
It's not the worst animal to get stuck as.
But there's a lot of like existentialism with her because like each book is from a different character's perspective. So when it's Hawk Boys, as I'm going to affectionately call him, he begins to, because like they have to battle initially when they morph into animals to fight against like the animals' sort of like instincts, so they'll lose control for the first 10 minutes but then be fine. But because he's stuck in hawk form, he starts to lose his humanity quite a bit. He tries to like stick with being more human and like eating hamburgers or whatever, but slowly it just starts to turn into, no, he's eating like mice and rats and flying around, and it's very existentialist. And like they're really dark books for children because it is about war, and the ending is not like, one of the main characters gets killed and the ending is not positive because they defeat, although I don't know if they defeat so the slugs have their own motive.
I love the way you're saying that. I know it's the name of them, but it really sounds like you're just trying to put a lot of spin on the word slug.
The slug, I think it's slugs. Kesmotion, can you look it up and see if it's slugs or not? The slugs have their own motives.
Could it potentially be completely different and you've just
probably,
misremembered?
Probably. I misremember a lot of things. But the slugs basically Animorphs. A-N-I... Well, it'll say, like, the main antagonists.
You search for that, you tell me a story.
Well, the slugs have their own motives, and that's that they can't...
They're called the Yerks.
What are the slugs, then? What? Google slugs quickly. See where I've got that from. I believe that's from Abe's Odyssey, actually. No, Abe's Exodus. Google slugs. Right. What are they called? The Yerks?
The Yerks.
What was I talking about?
Slugs is from Oddworld.
Slugs is from Abe's Exodus, and it's these little slugs that you make sure you don't step on, otherwise the fleeches wake up and then they eat you.
The what?
The fleeches?
No, you're just
making stuff up.
Say a few things from Abe's Odyssey. Say some of the names, because I think it makes...
Meduckans, gluckans, sligs, slogs.
Yeah, it sounds like you're having a stroke.
I didn't invent it. Lord Lanning did. Okay, so the Yerks. Sorry. The vowel bit was kind of like, ooh. Kind of, saying fuck off. So I get things wrong.
It's been a while.
Sometimes.
You haven't read Animorphs for, 6 months or so.
For about a year. Look, I just know so much stuff, right? Because I'm so much smarter than everyone that sometimes I misremember things.
They are actually slug-like creatures.
Yeah, they are slug-like. They're brain slugs. So, and slugs in Exodus are tiny little slugs that have no relevance to anything other than don't step on them or it will alert the fleeches to your movements. The Yerks, but they have their own motives, right? Because they can't, see anything. So when they take over a host's body, they suddenly, can see and actually do more things because they're just slugs. So they're kind of sick of being the way that they are, but then they have this evil ruler. So most of them aren't actually bad. They just want a better existence than having no senses. Essentially, they have their own little agenda, but they win or they form some sort of alliance with the slugs. I don't know, but then a new challenger appears and it ends on this cliffhanger of as I read all about this, I do that. I'll read something on the Wikipedia. It ends in this cliffhanger of the main character crashing his ship into the ship of this. I think he's called the One, who's assimilating everyone. And the author had to write this note that this is not a good ending because war often ends and then leads directly into another war. And if you're unsatisfied with this ending, then carry that feeling with you and remember this feeling of how you don't want pointless wars and pointless deaths when you're old enough to go vote for people. And I was like, damn, that author really came for them.
Well played. Who are they written by?
This husband and wife duo. But they had, I think they did the first 20 or so, and then the others were ghost written because they were having to like crank out one either a week or one a month or something. They had to like crank them out.
Yeah. I think Enid Blyton, who wrote like Famous Five, was writing like a book a week at one point. But I think the plots were very similar.
There's a romance novelist, I think she's about 70 or so, and I read her sort of daily routine, and it is literally just like write, eat a chocolate bar, sleep for about 3 hours or so, write some more. But she comes up with like door stoppers every year, but they all follow like similar plots after a while, you know, but they're still like this fucking big. Audio listeners, they're still like fucking massive.
You couldn't have given like inches or anything there, just...
Do you think I know units of measurement? Do you think I know how big like this is? I don't know, what's that? 4 inches? I don't know. What's that?
4. Yeah, 4. But that's hefty.
Space don't reel, so it don't matter, does it? Like, how big's that? Who cares? It's all relative. We might be seeing something completely different when I do that. I might be green to you, for all I know. Maybe. What else you got on the list?
Kind of leads in from like Animorphs and all like the rest of it.
Sick.
Like cryptids.
Ooh.
Animals that may or may not exist. I don't know.
Jury's out on that one.
I'm so nervous in deep water that I think through my own insecurity and fear, just do believe that Nessie exists. To the point where I wouldn't swim or take a small boat in Loch Ness, I think. I would just avoid it on the off chance that I'd get eaten by a dinosaur.
Do you remember that bit in that Spider-Man comic where there's the swamp, like the reptilian that lives in the swamp, the lizard man, and then like he knocks over someone's boat and he's like, "Get out of my swamp!" and they run away screaming, and then he's like, "I rule the swamp today, the swamp tomorrow, the world." And there was this fucking cracked article. This guy called Sean Baby, who was like one of the finest internet writers like of that generation. I think I sent it to you because he did this whole article about it, and he was like, "What a fucking escalation! Like, what delusions of grandeur! Like, today the swamp, tomorrow the entire world." It's like you saying you could beat all of Ukraine, the continent, or the country in football. Same escalation. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I feel like there's just at least a step missing, just somewhere in there. Swamp? ? World. Oh, do you know, we should have done this bit first. Maybe you can just cut it out, splice it at the beginning, because I've got the other apology to make. I made some very unfair comments about Joe Rogan last week. So if we could just take a minute.
Joe Rogan has a brain made of sandwich meat. You can apologise. I'm not.
Well, you're going to get the low kick.
Joe Rogan. No, what's funny, right, about this is he could probably kill me. He probably no, he definitely could.
Oh, well,
he wouldn't though, because I'm just so charming. He'd probably secretly like me. I'm so delusional. I reckon that all the people that I sort of basically slag off on the internet, I reckon they all just secretly like me.
So you don't think he wouldn't do it to avoid legal ramifications? Like, he'd be in the clear. He's so rich and powerful. He could kill you if he wanted to, and he'd get away with it. And be like, "Oh, do you remember when he killed that woman?" Yeah, banter. But he's just doing it because you're so charming. It's like he'd get here and be like, "No."
He'd be on his way. He'd be all like red in the face, like storming through this building. Take one look at me.
He's always red in the face.
Flash him a smile, and all would be well. I reckon that everyone just secretly likes me. Anision, I think he secretly he's never like started on me ever, and he goes after anyone. But never
My
me.
point is,
what was your? Oh no, cryptids. I've been on a little Loch Ness. My dad took me to Loch Ness because I wanted to find the Loch Ness monster. How good is my dad? What a legend.
How big was the boat?
Like a small yacht. It wasn't like some sort of rickety, like rowboat. We weren't doing that.
We're taking on water.
It was an official like little tour across Loch and then like Loch Ness, and we walked around it and we saw this rock that had a stick sticking up next to it, and if you squinted, it kind of looked like you could make that into look. So we took a picture of that. Like found Nessie. But I harbour a lot of delusions.
Well, you said earlier you reckon Nessie can talk.
No, my childlike brain, because I was about 8 at the time, kind of reasoned that Nessie is definitely a plesiosaur. And, 400 or so million years, however long it's been, however long they were around for, maybe the brain would grow and then they'd be able to talk, and maybe if I, really believed hard enough when I went to Loch Ness, I could make friends with the Loch Ness monster, because human friends weren't good enough for me. Why are you laughing? I used to have a shrine in my room, and I'd pray to aliens, like asking them, please, can you abduct me? I don't want to go to school. I'm sick of this place. When I was a kid.
That's
Scary. I had friends too. I had friends, but I was just... I'm
wrong.
elitist, and humans just weren't good enough for me, I suppose. So yeah, I wanted to make friends with the Loch Ness monster. Don't think it happened.
I'd like to make friends with, if there is one. I reckon there probably is a Bigfoot.
There's definitely some
A
sort of
big-footed
Sasquatch.
creature, yeah.
Yeah.
They're like a gentle woodland guide.
What if they're not? What if he's...
A real dick.
Isn't-
Not even a savage. He's like sentient and sapient. He understands what he's doing. He can probably talk, maybe through sign language like Coco. But he's just an asshole.
Didn't you say that there was some sort of level in Red Dead Redemption, or...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's one of the most awful things I remember from a video game, actually. Red Dead Redemption did the expansion pack for Halloween, Undead Nightmare. And I did the mission wrong. You come across this crazy guy in the woods who says he's hunting Sasquatches. I didn't know there were actual Sasquatches in the game. I assumed he meant zombies.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, whatever, old man.
Whatever, old man.
So I went off on my way. But then I started seeing Sasquatches, so I started killing them as well. And then the mission kind of accidentally started. And then you get to the last one, and you find him up against a tree, and he's weeping, and it turns out he can talk. And what you've just done is genocided his family. And there's no way to know this beforehand, but I'd run out of ammo. And because of the conversation tree I'd used, he said, please just kill me. So I tried, but all I had was a burning stick of wood. So I tried to bludgeon him to death with like a burning stick. He started to run away because he'd had enough. So I was just chasing this poor bastard down through the woods. I was like, oh, this is too much for a game now. I've got to turn it off. I'm sad because I'm quite nice to animals and animal-like things. No. Why'd you make me remember the story?
Right, so out of all the cryptids, you'd want to be friends with Bigfoot.
Probably Bigfoot, because Nessie just scares me. I've got an aversion to like all the aquatic dinosaurs freak me out.
Nessie's like a Pokemon. Like, actually,
No,
when
I don't like Lapras.
Well, yeah. The starter
away.
that I first ever picked when I had Pokemon Red was Squirtle. Maybe it comes from that. Oh no, just be fun. Like sit on its back, ride around the lock. The lock
Turtles
is very...
turtles and tortoises don't count. They're nice.
The lock is very not dirty.
Murky.
But very murky. If you go down a few meters, you can't see your hand.
Yeah. No. Things swimming up. That's why I don't like Godzilla. I mean, I like the films, but a gigantic lizard that lives under the sea that can turn ships over. It's like the worst thing I can possibly imagine.
What about Cthulhu?
Less so, because he's more squid-like. Squids, they're weird, but they don't... It's reptiles I don't like.
Octopi are little aliens, essentially.
Yeah.
They're very bizarre. There's a whole episode on Ancient Aliens about octopi and Ancient Aliens. I don't know how they managed to connect the two.
They can connect anything with ancient aliens.
Wait, no, I remember. Kes Motion, we watched it, remember? The episode about octopi? We do have little Ancient Alien binges because we're just dead set on finding out about the truth of humanity. But yeah, octopi might be aliens, basically alien spies.
I heard the same thing about spiders.
From outer space.
The octopus from outer space.
That is Cthulhu.
Yeah. Well, Cthulhu makes me laugh. End of sentence.
Yeah.
No, Cthulhu makes me laugh because in the book, when the sailors happen upon Cthulhu, his dimensions are so alien to what they can comprehend that some of them just give up and die of shock. And that always makes me chuckle.
They die
a
of
bit.
like madness and shock instantly.
Like instantly. Like imagine seeing something and being like, nope, I'm out, and then just dying of shock.
I'm checking out. All right. Well, attached to that then, because we've got just enough time for questions.
Oh, yeah, shit.
First one. What's your least favourite animal? I definitely know mine.
None. I love all of the universe's creations. We all have our part in the circle of life and the animal kingdom. Spiders freak me out a little bit. I don't like the way that they move, but I do accept that they have a role and they do it well to help with the equilibrium of the ecosystem. Yeah, I don't think there's any that I appreciate all of them.
That's
I'm
nice.
not a bigot.
That's nice. Your opinion is wrong, because the correct answer is, of course, ticks. Fuck them. You can't feel them on you. They bite you once, you might get Lyme's disease. And that just messes you up.
Why are you laughing about that in the background? Why are you laughing about that?
I don't know, it's just funny.
How is it funny? One of my...
There.
Oh, yeah, no, one of my friend's parents got Lyme's disease.
That's it. One and done. There's no cure for Lyme's disease yet. You're just gone, and it can happen. Like, you could have one on you now, bitten, and now you got Lyme's disease. Ticks are the worst. Mosquitoes, yeah, they're kind of bad, but you can see them coming and you can kind of hear them and feel them. Spiders, scorpions, all the rest, like millipedes and stuff, they're weird, but they're not like little ninjas.
Fleas are really bad, especially if you have pets.
Fleas are pretty bad, but yeah, no, ticks are definitely the worst.
Now I'm going to live in fear of
Yeah,
coming across
good.
any ticks. What the hell?
Well, you live in the city. I don't think there are that many ticks. It's more horse country where I'm from.
Oh, it scraps my plans of ever moving back to the countryside. Fuck
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, maybe urban sprawl, just to avoid those fuckers.
All right, I changed my answer. Ticks it is then. Do they do
Good.
anything of... Oh, wait, no.
No, they do nothing of value. They suck your blood. They make
Wasps
you sick.
don't...
Wasps are fine.
What?
They're fine compared to ticks. At least they're...
Compared to ticks?
No, because they're quite aesthetically pleasing as well. Wasps are quite well made. They're like a sports car.
I have never looked at a wasp and thought, wow, what
They're pretty
aesthetic
cool. Like, have you not-
proportions. Good for you.
Like on documentaries and stuff. They look really good.
No, the only documentaries I've ever seen when they include wasps is how they like decimate whole beehives. Like one wasp will go in and like rip up all these bees, and bees are nice because like they're kind of fluffy. They're quite chill. You could stroke a bee. I've done it before. Like they're all right. They're chill. They're not going to attack you because well they don't want to die. Like because their stinger rips out when they sting you. Wasps, they don't have that. Have you ever been stung by a wasp? I have.
Oh,
Little
countless
shits.
times. I got one stuck in my t-shirt once. That was not a great day.
We have another question. And this one is more of a serious nature. So I'm going to preface that we're not professionals in any capacity. I think if you've listened this far, you would know that. How does one find new friends after being in a toxic friend group for ages? They're too scared of cutting them off outright because of the possibility of becoming lonely. My answer is sometimes it is better to be lonely for a bit than to stay in a toxic friend group. When I gave up drinking and drugs, I realised that quite a lot of the friends that I had were based upon like drinking and drugs. So like I still had mates. Did it get a little bit lonely? Did I feel a little bit alienated and isolated? Do I still feel that way? Yes, but the alternative, it's better than the alternative of me like just being up all night like, on drugs, seeing like dawn rosy fingered coming up over the horizon like, oh god, I've done too much again.
Yeah.
I do that quite a lot. I think that's because like for years
Residual.
like that's what you do. Like, oh, that makes sense why I touch my nose all the time. Just like as a muscle memory.
Yeah.
Muscle memory of the old like, oh, drip back was nice though. Sorry, your answer. I'm gonna start like craving now, craving a little bit of Coke.
Well, there's help for that as well. No, I would say though, like, if you're like really worried, because some people feel loneliness really acutely, and if that's a problem, definitely just like find someone to talk to. Like, there's really good therapy out there, and you can do it online now because of COVID. Like, you can reach out, and some of my friends have done online therapy, and it's really helped. So, if you need to leave a friendship group, because I've had the same. It's not nearly as bad. It's not like they were giving me drugs, but no, because I grew up in the countryside and there wasn't like much around. So I had friends of proximity. So we actually didn't have that much in common, and they end up being a drain. And if you've got ambitions to do something else, they can really hold you back. So all your energy that could go into doing something better is just sapped away from you by people who don't want you to change. Because that's the one thing with friends as well. They're friends with you for often the wrong reasons. They don't want you to change or improve because that would reflect quite badly on them sometimes.
I had that when I was like the amount of times that I would try to give up like drinking or Coke or whatever, and then I'd have certain friends who I'm no longer friends with who I'd give up the night like have a bit of alcohol, be like, I've got to stay away from coke, and then they're giving me cocaine, you know, because they don't want. And then when I did finally manage to go sober, some of them were very dismissive of it, very like, oh, so you're boring then. I've never needed drugs to be interesting. I am a fucking delight. I have never needed drugs to be interesting. I took drugs so other people were more interesting, if anything.
That's not your advice, is it?
Don't take drugs. It is now, with the internet, it is easier than ever to access different communities. There were like people.
There's
that I used
meetup
to-
groups and stuff now reopening based
meetup
off.
groups, Twitter and Instagram. You can actually make friends. I speak to people all around the world, like partly because like my profession.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's easier than ever with the internet. And there are always like there's 8 billion people on Earth now. There's always someone that like you will be able to find.
Yeah,
that
you're
you can connect
definitely
with.
you're definitely never alone. Like I think one of the biggest fears is not the fear of the unknown for people. Like, oh, what if I ditch my friends and I can't find anyone? You definitely will, especially if you're following your passions around. Most people fear leaving the shore they know, like the familiar stuff, and leaving it behind. And that's partly because they like grieve the kind of person they used to be. Because even if your friends weren't great to you, they've formed such a huge part of your life that, you know, if you go without them, you've suddenly become a whole different person. And you can spend some time mourning that, even if you don't realize it. But
Life is a massive lesson in letting go of things. Sometimes you just need to let go.
yeah,
That's all we do with life at the end anyway. So on that existential bombshell,
how lovely.
that's how I'm going to end every fucking episode. That's how I keep ending my YouTube videos. On that bombshell, that is the end of this episode of the ALIZEE YEEZY podcast. So I hope you enjoyed it. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe. Leave us some nice comments. Sign up to the Patreon if you want to ask us questions and get our advice. And I guess we'll see you guys next time.
See you next week.
Bye.